Dapat na sila mata.
Rogue agent neutralized. System curtailed. System back online. Hostile dead in the door. Detonated gear detected. Vital signs critical. System activated. Agent down.
Over na ako nung
Upang ko lang. Ano naman eh. Ito nakaabang lang. Pag-ibig lang ano.
Rogue agent.
Likod natin, gago.
Like this, Kyoto's right with your bitch. If shy, ain't know it don't miss. Deep range, my shot go switch. We riding now, windows riding through your town.
What's good, my Division family? Welcome back to another Tom Clancy Division 2 PvP build video. You seen the title, you know we had to come back with something else. This time is not a clutch build. We got something else for you. This time we're here to talk about 45% health damage. You seen in the beginning, this joint shreds. I don't really care what you got on, this joint would destroy it. But before we get into that, if you're new, leave a like. If you're a returning person, leave a comment. And if you a hater, you already know who you are. You already know what I'm saying. I'll deal with you when I'll deal with you. So let's just dive straight in. We ain't even going to take that long for this because this is very simple. So we are going to start off with the Firewall Specialization, right? Specifically, you can play with any specialization with this build, but if you've been playing PvP, you already know the Firewall Specialization is the best specialization in the Dark Zone, or should I say for PvE, but specifically for this build, it's just the best. So, but you could go with any specialization you want, but specifically me, I went with Firewall because I just want that attachment, that crit hit damage attachment, and I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna show y'all why, but well, I'll just get to it now. But let's talk about the two weapons. Now I'm using ARs. You need to use ARs because ARs, if you know, well, if you don't know, but if you know, it has 21% health damage, right? Again, like I said, we're going for 45% health damage. So we got 21% health damage here. This is for the Lexington. I'm actually playing with both guns, so you could play with whatever AR you want. But me specifically, I'm using the Lexington and a FAMAS, right? And specifically on the Lexington, I have Strain because I want that 50% critical hit damage. And like how I told you, I want to put that attachment on the bottom, which is the critical hit damage. And again, you can only use this attachment when you have the Firewall Specialization. And 15% critical hit damage is a lot to just, you know, pass up. So that's why we're going with this attachment right here. And the second gun, like I said, we're going with the FAMAS. You can't really put that attachment on it, but we have Optimist and we have Strain. We have Optimist, we have Strain. I wish I could go with Strain for here, but it still does what it do. For the attachments, we got a bunch of crit chance just to, you know, make sure the gun be up at high crits. We have 1 crit hit damage on there as well. I'll show you the stats later, but let's dive into what we specifically have here. Like I said, you can use any AR you want, but this is specifically what I'm using. But you have to use ARs. You need to use ARs. Like I said, 21% health damage is high. So now what we're going to deal with is the Walker and Harris. No, I don't have the Matador like most people, but honestly, I've been playing with this same backpack for what, 3 years, honestly, and it still performs the way it do. You don't really need no Matador Perfect Adrenaline Rush. You don't need that. But specifically, this is what I have right here. We went 3-piece Walker because we need the damage to health. Again, we gain damage to health from there. That's another 10%. We got 5% damage to armor, and we got, of course, 5% weapon damage, which ain't really too shabby because it's whatever. Crit damage, crit chance, and crit damage. Everything on this build you're going to see is unicorn pieces, because normally all these pieces roll with just reds, so you have to just get crit damage or crit chance and flip it to a blue specific like this. It might take a little bit farming, but if you've been playing the game for a while, you kind of already have these pieces in your arsenal. You could just switch them. You don't really have to have it in the same order as I do either. You could just have it in any order you want. But like I said, we going with Adrenaline Rush. Everybody know what AD do. It's the most used talent in the game, which I'm sick of it, but you need to go with Adrenaline Rush to stay alive longer. You just get that extra bonus armor. Like I said, if you have perfect Adrenaline Rush, go ahead and use it. It ain't nothing bad to get an extra, percentage of bonus armor, but again, you don't really need to have perfect Adrenaline Rush. Second, we're going with Fenris piece for the 10% assault rifle damage. Again, like I told you, unicorn, crit damage, crit chance, swapped it to a blue. That's what it was. I will also be at 1.8 million armor if I was to expertise this mask, but we're gonna get to that mask soon. Now we got a Grupo chest piece. This is probably hard to get to. Another unicorn piece. We have Unbreakable for the talent. And like how I said, crit damage, crit chance, flip the red to a blue. We get an extra 13% critical hit damage on top of what I've already showed you. And like how I said, we got the 3-piece, Walker and Harris. And now let's go into the beauty of them all, the most slept on piece that I don't see nobody talk about. Now I'm gonna give you 2 ways you could run this, but if you want the 45% health damage, which is what you're here for, obviously, you need to get the Hollow Man. Now you can only get this, I believe, in the Dark Zone, Conflict, obviously, just doing Dark Zone activity things, like basically go clear control point, not control point, well, I guess you could say control point landmark in the DZ, but you can only get this in the DZ, so that's it, And, you can also get this from the Countdown vendor as well if it's being sold there on a week. If it's there, again, I'll post a video or I'll post a picture if it's there. If not, but this is what you have to do to get there. But besides the point, you got 14% health damage. Again, this is a unicorn piece because this piece rolls with blues. So I had to get one with crit chance or crit damage. I have a few of them, but this is the one I specifically wanted because I needed to get that crit chance up, and I actually got a crit chance mod in there, and we got the 14% health damage. And of course, y'all, you're probably looking at like, well, you're getting 10% hazard protection. That ain't really bad. There's a lot of status going on. Plus, it ain't really bad for what you got on that comes with your watch as well. So it ain't bad. But you need this. Now, this is the other way. If you don't want to use this, now you're going to lose 14% health damage, but you can also use the Coyote mask as well. At least you will be getting back 25% in critical hit damage on top of the critical hit damage that we have, which is what I'm going to show you the stats. But this is a crit build, so you basically lack off the mask if you don't have the mask. But if you have the mask, like I said, if you got the mask, then you can use the mask. But if you don't, you could basically use the Coyote. Coyote does damage, but again, we just want to destroy somebody's health. So for a placeholder, you can use the Coyote if you want to. Plus, it's not that bad because it also gives you crit hit chance. It gives you, again, crit hit damage, and also it's a team played, synergy exotic. So if you're playing with team or with a team, then you basically helping out them crits as well for them as well. So you could go either way. But if you got the mask, slap that mask on. The skills we're going with is a defender drone, and I like to pulse my enemy to basically see where they at, because a lot of people run, pulse or whatever. They don't want to just run around and hide or whatever, or you can just run around with the decoy and catch your opponent when he's not paying attention and destroy him in seconds. I ain't even gonna lie, seconds is crazy for real. Like, this drone really shreds. Got 57% critical hit chance with the Lexington and 157 crit damage on top of 50 crit damage from Strain, so that's 207. And like I said, if I was to put on the Coyote version with it, that's 25% critical hit damage on top of what we have. Like I said, the build shreds. Now let's get to the health damage. You see right here, 45% health damage, as you see, 45. This is the highest health damage you could get in the game. You can't get anything higher than this. So I'm sorry for you clutch builds. I know y'all know me for making clutch, but you know I had to make a clutch killer, and this right here is the clutch build killer. Honestly, it's any killer to any build that want to spec into health. This right here will destroy that down ASAP. I'm gonna make another video talking about how to counter clutch, because I see a lot of people running around with, you know what I'm saying, with clutch. You know, I see a lot of people playing with it. But trust me, I ran into a bunch of clutch players and I destroyed them with this same build. Actually, this is the main reason why I made this build, was to really counter clutch, you know. But again, 45% health damage. Let's get to the FAMAS. See, now the FAMAS, we have 60% critical hit chance, 152 critical hit damage, because remember, we can't get the attachment on this gun, and we still have the 45% health damage on the FAMAS. And if you think the FAMAS is tripping because of, you know, the lack of the base damage for 86k comparing to 93, you gotta remember that extra RPM is what actually, you know, makes up for it. So when you're shooting at me with the regular Lexington, I'm actually getting an extra 50% RPM on top of you. I'm landing my bullets faster, and like I said, once I get to that health bar, this FAMAS will lay that joint down, you know. So that's why these two guns work perfectly. Or you could just fluctuate. You basically could shred the armor with the Lexington, sorry, and then you could swap over to the FAMAS and just do the health damage. But if you don't really know the Lexington, if you don't have the Lexington, it's apparently supposed to be coming back next week for stretcher goals. So if you want the Lexington, I actually need a second one. But if you need the Lexington, I advise you to finish your season off. You gotta finish off your season so you get the stretch goals. And then I heard that Dev is supposed to be adding back the Lexington in one of these caches, so you could basically get it again. But yeah, that'll basically be it for today's build. Pistol don't really matter, so don't worry about that. But yeah, that's it. Told you, we over here making some new stuff, playing with different things, and it actually worked. Y'all already know what it is. Hopefully y'all try this out, and yeah, you already see what it could do. But it's your boy Zay. If you're new, leave a like. If you're a returning person, leave a comment. And if you a hater, you already heard what I said in my previous videos and what I said early on. I'll catch you when I catch you. Have an exuberant day. You know it's hot out there. Summer, you know, summer's almost over. I'll catch y'all in my next video. Stay safe. Peace, agents.
Yeah, boy, you're right.